Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be looking at a key switch that I've been using personally for the last couple of months that I absolutely love, and that is the Punk Workshop V1 key switch. Punk Workshop first came into the market with their leverless controllers, which a lot of top players have been using here in Asia in the Street Fighter 6 scene, but Punk Workshop also offers their key switches if you don't actually own one of their controllers. They offer two different versions, the V1 and V2. I personally only have the V1, so that's what we're going to be looking at today. Just a quick note before we get into this video, Punk Workshop did not provide me with these key switches. I bought these with my own money, and I'm only really introducing them to you today on my channel because I love them so much, and I hope you guys can try them too, because I think this is by far the most unique and interesting key switch I've used for fighting games so far. So let's hop over to the controller view and see what these things are like inside an actual controller. Alright, and I have the Punk Workshop V1s right here. This is an unopened pack. They sell out pretty fast and pretty often here in Japan, so I just bought a pack of extras just in case I ever have a breakage or if I need some spare ones. But this is them right here, and this is what it looks like out of the package. 2 pins on the bottom, all clear casing, which means the LEDs are going to shine right through it. And then here, we have the actual actuation point, which doesn't move very far. So I paid 1,620 yen for this online, which is about $10 American for a pack of 6. That makes these significantly more expensive than your standard key switches, but in my opinion, these feel great and the money is more than worth it because you're getting a very unique, very interesting, very high quality key switch with these. So I think it's definitely worth the money. Alright, so here's my usual everyday controller. This is an ASI LVL ABC. It's the controller I've been using for the past couple of months. And the reason why I'm going to show you the Punk Workshop V1s in this controller is because these Punk V1 key switches are full profile key switches, which means you're going to need a leverless controller that allows you to use full profile key switches. Which means, unfortunately, for most of you, if you have something like this, a Hot 42, or if you have like a Snackbox Micro or a Razer Kitsune, these key switches from Punk Workshop are not going to be compatible because all of these flatbox style controllers use low profile key switches, which I have right here. This is a Kyle Red low profile key switch, and this is what's mostly found in all flatbox style controllers. Unlike most other flatbox style controllers, this ASI controller actually only works with full profile key switches, similar to the Punk Workshop brand leverless itself. So I've already showed this off a bit, but here is the Punk Workshop key switch. This is the V1. Now, as you can see, the actual movement part, the actual thing here, is very, very short. And if we compare it like this is a standard Cherry MX Speed Silver, which I'm sure some of you who are more into keyboards are very familiar with, and this key switch is pretty much standard in terms of travel distance. Meanwhile, these Punk V1 key switches, these only have 0.5 millimeters of total travel. They are very, very short. So as you can see here, I have a standard Kyle Silver key switch, which is this one right here, and this is very comparable to a Cherry MX Speed Silver. These are pretty much exactly the same in terms of specs, although the brand is different. So that's what I have in here, and that comes standard with this controller. And then here, and everywhere else on this controller, I have the Punk Workshop V1 key switches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on the keycap on both of these, just so you can see the height differences when we compare these two key switches. Alright, so on the right is the Kyle Silver, and then on the left and everywhere else is the Punk Workshop V1s. And you can already see on the right, your standard key switch is going to be about double the height. So if you look here, you can see just how much travel there is with a standard silver style key switch. But then if we look at the Punk Workshop, that's half, if not more, the total travel. So the overall time that you're going to be spending moving from an unpushed position to a pushed position is significantly less than a regular key switch that comes with most flatbox style controllers. Alright, so I've plugged in the controller to my PC, and now you can see the LEDs are lit up, and we're going to be able to see just how much you need to actually push these buttons before they actuate, which I think is a much easier way to compare rather than just looking at how they move. So now we have a side view here, just to compare standard silver key switches to the Punk Workshop ones. So here's a standard silver key switch. See, I'm pushing, but the light hasn't changed, which means it's not actuated yet. And then there. This is how far I have to push in for it to actually actuate. And then all this motion here is technically wasted motion. This isn't releasing, it's still being pushed. So the button is still actuated. I have to release about this far for it to come off. Meanwhile, if we look at the Punk Workshop V1s, I basically just feather it, it triggers, and then when I release, very little movement from push to release. So these are incredibly sensitive key switches, which you may like or dislike. For me, personally, I like how sensitive they are. I don't really smash my buttons and I kind of just hover my fingers above. So I prefer how quick and fast these are, both on push and release. But if you're kind of like a heavy-handed person and you prefer kind of smashing your buttons, then a standard key switch might be something more to your liking. But I'm loving these Punk Workshop V1s right now. So let's have a quick listen to what these key switches sound like compared also to a standard silver key switch. Now, one thing I have to say about these key switches, which you should know before you buy these, is that the feel is completely different than any other key switch I've used. They are very, very unique. The best thing I can kind of compare it to is a touchscreen on a smartphone. I have an iPhone 14 Pro here. Kind of like haptic feedback on a phone. You know when you push the phone, it kind of gives a little vibrate. Now, of course, these don't vibrate, but I'm just trying to accentuate the fact that it feels like it's not really moving that much. And some people might not like this. Me personally, I love the way they feel, but it did take me about a week to a week and a half to really get used to these key switches and kind of get a feeling of how they worked. But once I got used to it, I loved them and I don't see myself going back to any other key switch. So up until this point in the video, I've been talking about how fast they work and how quickly you can move with motions. But these are also really good for people who like to do slide inputs. So for example, if you're like a Zangief player and you like to do your command grabs with a slide like this, because you barely have to touch these buttons to make them fire off, it's very, very easy to get slide inputs. For me, I'm a Guile player, so I like to do my level 1s and level 3s like this, doing a slide from forward to back, back to forward, and I have no issue getting those commands off. But, you know, it's one thing for me to tell you, why don't I just show you? Let's get into the game, and let's start looking at these key switches in practice. So first, let me show off some slide inputs. For Guile's level 1 cancel, you can go for his target combo, and I just slide like that. I slide from forward to back, to forward again. Super easy, super fast, and same thing for the level 3. I just go like that, and it works super well. So another great use for slide inputs is going to be with a character like Zangief, where you can do really easy walk up 360s just by sliding from forward to back. So this is on the 1-player side. Super easy to do on this controller with these Punk Workshop switches. Or on the 2-player side, same idea. Just go like that, and you get these amazing, super fast command grabs, even when you're walking forward. Let's see if I can get a 720 with this. There we go, there's a 720. So, standing 720, totally possible with these key switches. I didn't really practice this. I spent maybe 1 minute before hitting record on this video before I got that. And if I can do it without practice, I'm sure you as a Zangief main are going to be able to do those kind of combos with these key switches. So I highly recommend them. I think the speed is fantastic. And as we just saw in game, it's pretty great. So we just took a look at Street Fighter, but I think Tekken is also a game that's really well suited for these key switches because in my opinion, there's actually a lot of more technical, difficult to do inputs in Tekken than there are in Street Fighter 6. So I've got Brian here. We're going to go through Taunt Jet Upper, see what it looks like, and then I'll also show off some of the more harder inputs to do in this game. So there we go. So all I have to do for this Taunt Jet Upper, instead of going like forward, neutral, back, forward, I just kind of flick the forward button because you barely have to touch this key switch to get this move to come out. So one more time. And you know, you'd go into typical Tekken stuff from there. Next, we got a perfect electric on both player sides. Let's try to do this. So that's pretty much it for my thoughts on these Punk Workshop V1 key switches. If you guys want to pick these up, I'll leave a link in the description. If you have any questions about these key switches, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section and I'll try my best to answer them. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, take care.